Africa is the second largest continent after Asia and the second populated continent in the world, but still faces a lot of challenges from political instability, economic stagnation and civil wars. In this video, we're going to show you the top 10 poorest African countries ranked by their GDP as of 2024. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more other videos, like, and comment on the video. Number 10. Madagascar. Since becoming independent from France in 1960, Madagascar has experienced a lot of political instability, violent coups, and disputed elections. President Andry Rajoelina came to power in 2019 and promised to tackle corruption, reduce poverty and develop the economy, which turned out to be empty promises. Madagascar still holds one of the highest poverty rates in the world at about 75%, growth sluggish, and inflation stands at about 10%. The country has also faced an unprecedented series of challenges, along with the economic and social consequences of COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, the country suffered from the world's first famine caused by climate change, and in 2022, the Russian-Ukraine war led to the food prices to skyrocket, adding to the misery of the people on the island. Number 9. Chad. Chad has Africa's 10th largest oil reserves, yet poverty remains widespread, making it the 9th poorest country in the world. Most of the country's oil resources of 2003 were spent by their autocratic ruler, Idriss Déby, to fight and crack down rebels in the country. When Déby was killed in 2021, a military council headed by his son, Mohamed Idriss, took control of the country. The constitution was suspended shortly thereafter, and both government and parliament dissolved. Backed by military, he remains the transitional head of state to this day. Number 8. Liberia. Liberia is Africa's oldest republic, which has been ranked among the poorest countries in the world for many years. Expectations were high when the former football star George Weah became the president in 2018, but his years in office were marred by high inflation, unemployment, and negative economic growth. Until 2023, when he was defeated by opposition leader and former vice president, Joseph Boakai, in a new round of elections. Boakai might have it easier than George Weah. Economic growth restarted in 2022 and is projected to reach about 4% in 2024. Number 7. Malawi. Malawi is one of Africa's smallest nations, and it economically largely depends on rain-fed crops, and remains vulnerable to weather-related shocks, leading to food shortages in rural areas. The country has enjoyed stable governments since it gained independence from Britain in 1964. However, in 2020, the Constitutional Court annulled former President Peter Mutharika's win in the general elections, citing vote rigging and tampering. Theologian and politician Lazarus Chakwera was sworn in his place, and he declared that he wanted to provide the kind of leadership that make everybody prosper. But structural changes have been slow to materialize. Today, Malawi is grappling with an economic crisis that has led to fuel shortages, a surge in food prices, and sharp devaluation of the currency. Number 6. Mozambique. Mozambique is rich in resources and strategically located. This former Portuguese colony has often posted an average GDP growth rate more than 7% in the past decade. Yet it remains listed among the 10 poorest countries in the world, with severe climate conditions and political instability being some of the main problems. Since the 2017 attacks by the Islamic insurgent groups who plagued the gas-rich northern part of the country, it still records the high economic growth by IMF, which grew by 7% in 2023 and is projected to continue about 5% in 2024 and 2025. Number 5. Niger. With 80% of its landlocked territory covered by the Sahara Desert, and its rapid growing population is largely dependent on small-scale agriculture. Niger is under the threat of desertification. Food insecurity is so high, disease and mortality rates. Recurrent clashes between the army and Islamic State affiliate Boko Haram have displaced thousands. In 2021, Niger elected a new president, ex-teacher, and former Interior Minister, Mohamed Bazoum, in its first democratic transfer of power. With the economy expanding by 12%, In 2022, things appeared to be looking up. Yet, in the summer of 2023, Mohammed was ousted and imprisoned by members of his presidential guard, and the military junta has remained in power ever since. Number 4. Democratic Republic of Congo. Since gaining independence from Belgium in 1960, DRC has suffered rapacious dictatorship, political instability and constant violence, making it regular in our rankings of the world's poorest countries. About 65% of the country's roughly 100 million population gets less than 15 cents a day. Yet, World Bank says DRC has the resources and potential to become one of the richest countries in Africa and a growth driver of the entire continent. The country is already the world's largest producer of cobalt and Africa's leading source of copper essentials in the production of electric vehicles. Number 3. Central African Republic. Rich in gold, oil, uranium, and diamonds, the Central African Republic is a very wealthy country inhabited by poor people and has been among the poorest countries in the world for decades. For the first time since its independence from France in 1960. In 2016, the Central African Republic has democratically elected a president, former mathematics professor and Prime Minister Faustin Archange Touadéra, who campaigned as a peacemaker who could bridge the divide between the Muslim minority and the Christian majority. Yet, his successful election has been seen as an important step towards national reconciliation. Large swaths of the country remain controlled by anti-government and militia groups. Despite the problems and setbacks in recent years, growth has moderately picked up, driven by the timber industry, the revival of the agricultural sector, and the partially resumed sale of diamonds. Number 2. Burundi. Burundi is a tiny country which lacks natural resources and has been affected by a 12-year civil war, contributing to its ranking of the second poorest country in the world. With about 80% of Burundi's roughly 30 million people relying on subsistence agriculture, food insecurity is almost twice as high as average for sub-Saharan African countries. Furthermore, access to water and sanitation remains very low, and less than 5% of the population has electricity. President Evariste Ndayishimiye has made an effort to relaunch the economy and replace diplomatic relationships. And in 2022, both USA and European Union resumed aid after lifting financial sanctions. Unfortunately, while growth is picking up, inflation is projected this year to be around 16%. Number 1. South Sudan. South Sudan has been ranked as the world's poorest country and has been racked by violence since its creation in 2011. Rich in oil reserves, Sudan is faced with a lot of political inequality, corruption, warfare, and social divisions, which have contributed to the poverty growth rate. Majority of the population is employed in traditional agriculture, although violence and extreme climate often prevent farmers from planting or harvesting crops. This year, an estimated 9 million people, over 60% of South Sudan's population, will be in need of humanitarian assistance. Thanks for watching and please, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos.